Interest is it's a thing. Okay. So next thing we like to talk about is an amortization schedule. And this is also something that is talked a lot about when you are buying your house because it's something that your realtor should give you so you can see kind of the breakdown of how much you're paying and what's the balance and everything like that. So in this case, we're filling out an amortization schedule that has an annual rate of 9.5%. Your monthly payment is 1,345.50. The amount of your mortgage after your down payment is $130,000. The term is 15 years, 0 months, and the number of monthly payments, which you could actually just find out by doing 15 times 12, it's going to be 180. So and that means, what that last part means is that in your amortization schedule, you are going to have a table with 180 rows. And this is how the rows are built. Your first thing tells you your payment number, and then it's going to tell you the amount that is paid towards your interest and the amount that is paid towards your principal, which is the amount that actually is going to buy your house. And so what's going to happen is that initially you are paying a lot more to your interest than you're actually paying towards the cost of your house. And you figure that out by taking, okay, well, my interest payment is going to be my mortgage times my rate, 9.5 to a decimal is 0.095. And then I divide that by 12 because I'm doing 1 month. So usually it's PRT. Now it's PR and my T is 1/12, 1 month out of a year. That gives me my interest. And then to figure out my principal payment, well, I just take whatever I'm paying monthly and I subtract the amount that is taken away from me from interest. So that's 323.33. And then to figure out how much I've actually paid off in my house, I take the amount of my mortgage, I subtract my principal payment, and that gets me my new balance. So now if we move to the second row, what we're going to do is we're going to use our new balance to figure out our interest payment. So instead of going back to my original mortgage, now I do my new balance times my rate times my time, and I get my new interest. And then the principal and the balance is going to be found a very similar way. We take our monthly payment, which isn't going to change throughout this whole thing. We subtract our interest payment, and then we subtract that from our total balance to get our new balance. So what you're going to see when you look at amortization schedules is that the interest payment is always going to be very high initially, and then as you go throughout, eventually it drops down to nothing, and then the principal payment, the amount that you're paying towards your house, starts to increase and get better and better. Now, the good news is I'm not going to make you calculate that because there's a ton of resources online when you're trying to buy a house that will do all of this for you. So we'll reference something when I actually give you guys the project of where to go. I think I honestly just Googled a mortgage refinance amortization schedule to do it for me. And then you just enter in all the information that we had before. We talk about what your monthly is going to be, what the amount of your mortgage, the annual rate, number of monthly payments. So I did all of that, and voila, it does all of the heavy lifting for me. We can look immediately and see, okay, my first interest payment's this, the amount, the principal that I'm actually paying towards my house is this, and here's my new balance. And so it runs through, and in fact, it tells you at the end of 2002, this is going to be the amount that you've paid towards, or the total amount of that year that you've paid towards interest, the total amount that you've paid towards your principal, and then your balance at the end of the year. And so what we've done is I showed you in the previous, not the previous slide, but I've showed you on this slide that this table is going to have 360 rows. So I'm not going to put that all out here. These are the first, I think, is it 10 or 9 rows, depending on how you look at it. And then this is towards the end of the 30-year mortgage. We see that, in fact, yes, the first column, which was our interest rates, we're paying very little towards our actual interest rates. The second one, which is our principal, we're paying a lot towards our house. And then finally and wonderfully, we can see that final balance slowly dwindles down to 1. And that is when our house will be paid off. Now, the question that everyone should be asking themselves when they make a huge purchase like a house, or, I mean, depends on your perspective, but I would say also a car would be a huge purchase, is can you afford to do this? You don't want to go into buying a house and realizing that 5 years in, you can't afford to buy it anymore. And yes, there's ways to kind of refinance your house, but the truth of the matter is, every time you refinance your house, you're going to almost double your interest rate. So it's going to be very, very bad for you. People get upside down in their houses. That's a whole different discussion. So the important thing is that you need to know, okay, I'm going to be able to afford this house, assuming I keep my income or even maybe get better income later on. This is going to be financially sound for me. So something that to consider is that, okay, let's say my annual income is 25,000. How much could I actually spend towards this mortgage payment? Let's say I already have my down payment done. I'm just only talking about monthly payments. And it might seem up front that, okay, well, I'll just take my annual income, I'll divide it by the fact that there's 12 months in a year, and so I can afford a mortgage of $2,083. That's a mistake. Don't do that, because that's assuming that you only have money to buy your house. Doesn't account for the fact that you need clothes and food and gas and all of that things. So more realistically, what we need to do is kind of experts recommend that you do not spend more than 28% of your monthly income. And this would be after taxes as well, worth mentioning, your monthly income or your yearly income after taxes. So instead of being able to spend $2,083, you can instead maybe pay out $583. You take your 0.28, you multiply it by the your monthly income, and that would get you what you can expect to pay for your mortgage. So watch for that. Don't just say, okay, I have this income, I can put it all towards something. No, you can't really put all of your income towards anything. There's so many other things you have to consider. Now, something else to talk about is credit. So when you buy a house and you're actually on a loan, you don't have that money. You are, the bank is kind of saying, okay, well, you clearly don't have that money. We definitely do have that money. We'll give it to you, but you're going to have to keep paying us back. So that's a credit obligation. And that happens with credit cards as well. That happens with car loans. Like, all of these things are actually not your money. You're paying someone else to actually pay for it. And so if something goes south, these credit obligations start to become very difficult because you have to continue to pay this without really having much money. So the recommendation on this, and honestly, this seems pretty generous in my opinion, is that you shouldn't spend more than 36% of your monthly income towards credit. So that means that this could count towards your mortgage, but in order to figure out like how much you could do a mortgage, and then also your credit card payments, and then also your car payments, all of those, we would take our gross monthly income, again, after taxes, we would multiply it by the percentage of 36%, and then we could say we can spend about $750 towards credit. Again, I would probably do a lower percentage and kind of consider all the other things that need to happen, but I'm not a finance expert by any means because I just don't really have money. So that's kind of the recommended amount to consider. Now, finally, let's say that we want to have 80% of our allowed or recommended monthly credit that we're going to have. We're going to put that towards our mortgage. How much does that leave us for other things? So to figure out how much we are going to be putting towards our mortgage, we take that recommended credit amount of $750, we times it by 0.0. So we're planning on spending $600 towards our mortgage, so a little bit more than the recommended amount. And how much does that leave for other things? Okay, well, 750 minus 600, that means I have I have $150 to put towards my credit card bills that have been racking up, or my car loans, or something like that. So these are all things to consider when you're buying anything big. Can you afford it? How much can you spend? How much should you be willing to spend or think that you're capable of saving during these times?